My parents insisted I hand over all my savings to cover my brother's gambling debt. I refused and walked out. Half an hour later, Mom texted, "Sign the mortgage for your brother or don't bother coming home." By midnight, I shut down every account they could reach, and by morning, 21 furious messages flooded my phone. "My name is Amelia Crawford. I'm 28 years old, and I've spent every day since I turned 16 working toward one thing. Freedom. Financial freedom. The kind that means no one can ever tell me what to do with my life." After 12 years of grinding, saving every spare dollar, living on beans and rice while my friends went out clubbing, I had finally done it. $180,000 sitting in my savings account. Every single penny earned by my own sweat, my own sacrifice, my own relentless discipline. I thought that money meant security, independence, a future I'd built with my own two hands. But one Tuesday evening at my parents' house, sitting around their worn dining table in their suburban Phoenix home, I learned that some people see your success as their emergency fund. My older brother Garrett dropped a bomb that would shatter everything. "I need $120,000, he announced, his voice casual, like he was asking to borrow $20 for gas. Gambling debts, high-interest loans, some guys who aren't exactly patient about getting paid back. He locked eyes with me across the table, his jaw set. "I need you to give me your savings and co-sign on a mortgage. It's the only way out." The room went silent. I felt my mother's eyes boring into me. My father cleared his throat, a sound I knew meant he was about to back Garrett up. "No," I said, my voice barely a whisper at first, then louder. "No, that's my future you're asking for. I can't." My mother's face hardened instantly, transforming from the woman who'd raised me into someone I barely recognized. "Family takes care of family, Amelia. That's how this works." My father leaned forward, his weathered hands flat on the table. "You've always had it easy, working your little office job, living alone with no responsibilities. Your brother needs you. We all need you." The words hit like physical blows. Little office job, no responsibilities, as if the last 12 years of my life counted for nothing. "I worked for this money," I said, my hands trembling as I gripped the edge of my chair. "Every dollar! I'm not throwing it away because Garrett can't control himself." Garrett's face flushed red. "Can't control myself? You're selfish." My mother's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Amelia, you will help your brother. That's not a request." I stood up, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I'm sorry about your situation, Garrett. I really am, but my answer is no." I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice, cold and final. "If you walk out that door without agreeing to help, don't bother coming back." I walked out anyway. 30 minutes later, sitting in my car in the parking lot of a closed grocery store, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Sign the mortgage papers for Garrett or consider yourself no longer part of this family." My hands shook as I read it, then read it again. That's when I knew what I had to do. Growing up in a sun-baked Phoenix suburb, our family looked perfect from the outside. Dad managed a car dealership, always impressed in polo shirts with the dealership logo. Mom worked as a dental hygienist, her scrubs color-coded for each day of the week. Garrett, 3 years older than me, was the golden child, captain of the baseball team, popular, effortlessly charming. We lived in a ranch-style house with a rock garden instead of grass like everyone else on our street. To the neighbors, we were the Crawfords, stable, normal, all-American. But inside those walls, I learned early that love in our family had conditions. When I was in 4th grade, I won first place in the regional science fair. I'd built a working model of a water filtration system, spending weeks perfecting it in our garage. The night of the award ceremony, I waited by the door in my best dress, certificate clutched in my hands. "Sorry, honey," Mom said, barely looking up from her phone. "Garrett's got a playoff game. We'll celebrate your thing this weekend." The weekend never came. The certificate ended up in a drawer, eventually thrown out during spring cleaning. That became the pattern. Garrett's baseball tournaments, Garrett's graduation, Garrett's college applications. Everything revolved around him. My straight-A report cards earned a pat on the head. My acceptance to Arizona State with a partial scholarship. That's nice, dear. Did you hear Garrett made starting pitcher? By middle school, I stopped trying to compete for their attention. Instead, I focused on what I could control, my grades, my future, my independence. At 15, I got a job at a local bookstore in the strip mall near our house. The manager, a woman named Patricia who always smelled like peppermint tea, taught me how to work the register, stock shelves, and most importantly, how to open a savings account. Every paycheck, Patricia told me, put away at least half. You'll thank yourself later. My first paycheck was $127. I deposited $70 into savings. It felt like planting a seed. I'd ride my bike home through Phoenix's blazing heat, past stucco houses and desert landscaping, feeling proud of every dollar I earned. That job taught me something my parents never did. I could rely on myself. Meanwhile, Garrett coasted. He'd charm his teachers into extending deadlines, sweet-talk mom and dad into buying him a used truck for his 16th birthday, shrug off responsibilities with that easy smile. Garrett's just figuring things out, Dad would say whenever report cards came home with C's and D's. I watched them enable him, excuse him, fund him, and I learned what not to do with my life. Those Phoenix summers, scorching days spent organizing books in air-conditioned silence, saving every possible dollar, built something in me my parents never understood. Not resentment exactly, but determination. A bone-deep knowledge that I was on my own, and that was okay. I'd look at my growing savings account balance at the ATM and feel something my family never gave me. Security. By the time I graduated high school with honors, I'd saved $8,000. Arizona State offered me a partial academic scholarship. It wasn't full tuition, but combined with my savings and a commitment to work through college, it was enough. The day I left for college, Garrett was sleeping off a hangover from the night before. Mom gave me a distracted hug. Dad handed me $50 for emergencies. I didn't realize it then, but I was already gone. Arizona State's campus in Tempe felt like stepping into a different world. Palm trees lined the walkways. Students lounged on grass quads between modern buildings. I'd chosen to major in accounting, something practical, something that would guarantee a steady income. But scholarships don't cover everything. Textbooks cost a fortune. The meal plan barely stretched to 3 meals a day. My dorm room, shared with a roommate who partied 4 nights a week, was cramped and loud. So I worked. I landed a position at the university's student accounts office, processing tuition payments and financial aid paperwork. 20 hours a week at $12 an hour, scheduled around my classes. My supervisor, a graduate student named Vanessa, noticed my attention to detail. "You're good with numbers," she said one afternoon, watching me reconcile a complicated account. "Have you thought about financial planning as a career?" I hadn't, but the seed was planted. My routine became mechanical. Classes from 8 to 3, work from 4 to 8, studying until midnight. Weekends meant catching up on assignments and picking up extra shifts when possible. My roommate thought I was boring. I thought I was building something. Every 2 weeks, my paycheck went straight into savings. I tracked every expense in a spiral notebook. $4.50 for a burrito, $12 for used textbooks, $30 for a required lab fee. What I didn't need, I didn't spend. By sophomore year, I'd saved $25,000. The number felt unreal. I started reading books about investing, learning about index funds and compound interest. I opened a Roth IRA and started contributing small amounts, watching my money work for me. My parents called occasionally. The conversations were always the same. "How's school?" "Fine." "Staying out of trouble?" "Yes." They never asked about my job, my savings, my plans. Garrett, meanwhile, had dropped out of community college and was working part-time at Dad's dealership, living at home, rent-free. I graduated at 22 with a degree in accounting, $45,000 in savings and zero debt. The accomplishment felt massive and lonely. Mom and Dad came to graduation, took a few photos, then left early to help Garrett move into a new apartment. The Phoenix job market was competitive, but I landed a position as a junior accountant at a mid-sized firm called Desert Financial Group. Starting salary, $52,000 a year. I'd never seen that much money in my life. I rented a small one-bedroom apartment in Scottsdale, furnished it with Craigslist finds and IKEA basics. My life became a rhythm. Work, save, invest, repeat. I packed my lunch every day, turkey sandwiches and fruit. I drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic I'd bought in cash. While coworkers grabbed happy hour drinks, I went home to meal prep for the week. "You're disciplined," my boss said during my first annual review. "That's rare in someone your age. Disciplined." It was the nicest thing anyone had said about me in years. By 25, I'd saved $90,000. I'd started picking up freelance bookkeeping clients on weekends, building a side income. I took online courses in financial analysis, earning certifications that boosted my salary. Every raise, every bonus, every tax refund went straight into savings or investments. My coworkers thought I was extreme. "Live a little," they'd say, but they didn't understand. Every dollar saved was a brick in the foundation of a life where I'd never have to depend on anyone. At 27, I got promoted to senior accountant. My salary jumped to $78,000. My savings crossed $150,000. I felt invincible. Then $180,000. I'd look at that number in my bank app and feel something close to joy. This was mine, built by me, for me. No one could take it away, until Garrett's gambling debts came due. That Tuesday night, after walking out of my parents' house, I sat in my car staring at Mom's text. "Sign the mortgage papers for Garrett or consider yourself no longer part of this family." My phone kept buzzing. Dad calling, Mom calling, text after text, each one more aggressive than the last. "You're being selfish. Family helps family. We raised you better than this." I drove home on autopilot, my mind racing. Inside my apartment, I paced the small living room, my phone lighting up relentlessly on the coffee table. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. An email alert from my bank. "Multiple failed login attempts on your account." My heart stopped. I grabbed my laptop and logged in, fingers shaking. Someone had tried to access my savings account. 4 attempts in the last hour, all with incorrect passwords. The timestamps lined up perfectly with when I'd left my parents' house. Garrett or Mom or Dad, maybe all of them. The realization hit like a punch. They weren't just asking for my money, they felt entitled to it. Entitled enough to try breaking into my account. I changed every password, enabled 2-factor authentication, and added security alerts. My hands trembled with anger and something else. Betrayal that cut deeper than I'd expected. At midnight, I made a decision. I called my bank's customer service line and froze all external access to my accounts. No transfers out unless I authorized them in person with photo ID. By morning, my phone showed 21 missed calls. The voicemails were brutal. "Dad, you ungrateful brat, after everything we've done for you." "Mom, you're tearing this family apart. I hope you can live with yourself." "Garrett, you're dead to me. You hear that? Dead." I listened to each one, then deleted them all. But I needed perspective. I called my friend Natalie, someone I'd met through work who'd become my closest confidant. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Scottsdale, sitting outside in the February sunshine. "They tried to hack my bank account," I told her, voice shaking. Natalie's eyes widened. "Amelia, that's not family, that's financial abuse." The words hit hard. Financial abuse. I'd never thought of it that way. "You saved that money through years of sacrifice," Natalie continued. "It's yours, not theirs, not Garrett's. Yours." She didn't judge. She didn't tell me what to do. She just listened, her hand steady on mine as I processed the chaos. Later that day, I got a text from my cousin Brianna, someone I hadn't heard from in months. "Hey, I heard about the blow-up with your parents. I thought you should know this isn't the first time." I called her immediately. "What do you mean?" Brianna sighed. "Garrett's been gambling for years. He drained Grandma Rose's savings 2 years ago. $30,000. She never told your parents the truth because she was embarrassed. And last year he borrowed $15,000 from Uncle Paul and never paid it back. Your parents have been covering for him this whole time." My stomach dropped. This wasn't a one-time crisis. This was a pattern. Years of enabling, years of bailing him out, years of teaching him that consequences didn't exist because someone would always rescue him. "Don't let them guilt you," Brianna said. "They made their choices. You don't owe them yours." That night, I sat on my apartment balcony watching the sunset paint the Phoenix sky in oranges and purples. The calls kept coming. I'd stopped answering. The texts kept piling up. I'd stopped reading them. For the first time in my life, I let myself imagine something radical. Leaving. Starting over somewhere new, somewhere my past couldn't follow me. The idea terrified me, but it also felt like oxygen. I started researching that night. Jobs in other cities, cost of living, places where I could disappear into a new life. Denver caught my eye. Growing financial sector, reasonable cost of living, mountains instead of desert. I'd never been there, which felt perfect. A blank slate. On Thursday, I got an email that changed everything. My old college friend Isaac worked at a financial consulting firm in Denver called Summit Advisory Group. His message was casual. "Hey, stranger, we're hiring senior accountants. $95,000 starting salary plus relocation bonus. Thought of you." I read it 3 times, $95,000. A $17,000 raise and 750 miles between me and Phoenix. I applied immediately. Meanwhile, the pressure from my family intensified. Garrett posted on social media a long, rambling rant about how I'd abandoned him in his time of need. "My sister has money but won't help her own flesh and blood," he wrote. "Guess I know where I stand." The post went viral in our extended family circle. Cousins I barely knew commented, calling me cold and heartless. Distant relatives shared it, adding their own judgments. My phone exploded with messages from people who hadn't spoken to me in years, all telling me what a terrible person I was. I didn't respond. Engaging would only make it worse. On Saturday, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Mom and Dad standing there, Mom holding a folder of papers. "We need to talk," Dad said, pushing past me into my apartment. They sat on my couch like they owned the place. Mom slid the folder across my coffee table. "These are the mortgage papers," she said, her voice tight. "Sign them now!" I stared at the documents, pages of legal text, my name typed in as co-signer. They'd already filled everything out. "No," I said simply. Dad's face turned red. "Don't you dare," he said, voice rising. "No." My voice was steady now, stronger than I'd ever heard it. "I'm not co-signing anything. I'm not giving Garrett my money. I'm done." Mom's eyes filled with tears, the manipulative kind I'd seen 100 times. "How can you be so cruel? He's your brother." "He's a grown man who made his own choices," I said. "Those aren't my choices to fix." Dad stood, pointing his finger at me. "You're out of the family, you hear me? Don't come crawling back when you need us." "I won't," I said, opening my door. "Please leave." They left, Mom sobbing dramatically, Dad muttering about ingratitude. I closed the door behind them and felt nothing. No guilt, no regret, just clarity. On Monday, Summit Advisory Group called. They wanted to interview me. A video call that week. I said yes. The interview went perfectly. My experience, my certifications, my track record spoke for themselves. By Friday, they offered me the job. $95,000 salary, $8,000 relocation bonus, start date in 3 weeks. I accepted before I could second-guess myself. The next 2 weeks were a blur. I gave notice at Desert Financial Group, packed my apartment, sold furniture I wouldn't need. Natalie helped me load boxes into a moving truck, giving me a tight hug before I left. "You're doing the right thing." she whispered. I hoped she was right. My last night in Phoenix, I drove past my parents' house. The lights were on. Garrett's truck sat in the driveway. Part of me wanted to knock, to explain, to try one more time. But I kept driving. Some bridges need to burn. Denver in March was cold and bright. Snow still dusting the mountains visible from downtown. I'd rented a one-bedroom apartment in the Capitol Hill neighborhood sight unseen, trusting photos and virtual tours. Walking into that empty apartment felt like stepping into someone else's life. Hardwood floors, big windows, a view of the city skyline. It was mine, paid for with my own money, my own choices. Work at Summit Advisory Group started immediately. The office was sleek and modern, all glass walls and standing desks. My team handled financial planning for mid-sized businesses, analyzing budgets and optimizing cash flow. It was challenging work, exactly what I needed. Isaac introduced me around, making the transition easy. This is Amelia, the numbers wizard I told you about, he'd say, and people would smile, welcoming me into projects and team lunches. I threw myself into work, learning the company's systems, impressing clients with detailed analysis. My boss, a sharp woman named Carol, pulled me aside after my first month. You're exceeding expectations, she said. Keep this up, and we'll be talking about partnership track in a few years. Partnership. The word felt like a promise, like proof that I'd made the right choice. Outside work, Denver slowly became home. I explored the city on weekends, walking through Cheeseman Park, browsing the bookstores on Kfax Avenue, hiking easy trails in the foothills. The air felt thinner, cleaner. The mountains made me feel small in a good way. I met people through work. Isaac's girlfriend, Victoria, invited me to a game night at their apartment where I met other transplants and locals. We played board games and drank cheap wine, laughing until midnight. It felt light, uncomplicated, so different from the weight of family dinners in Phoenix. But the past lingered. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Helen Reeves, who specialized in family trauma. Her office was in a historic building downtown, filled with plants and soft lighting. Tell me about your relationship with your family, she said in our first session. The floodgates opened. I talked about childhood, about being invisible, about Garrett's gambling and my parents' ultimatum. Dr. Reeves listened without judgment, taking notes. You were parentified, she said finally. Made to feel responsible for problems that weren't yours to solve. That's not your fault. Week after week, we unpacked the guilt, the manipulation, the years of being told my worth came from serving others. Dr. Reeves gave me tools, boundary setting, cognitive reframing, self-compassion practices. Choosing yourself isn't selfish, she reminded me constantly. It's survival. 3 months into Denver, I got a text from Brianna. Thought you should know. Your parents lost their house. They couldn't make the mortgage payments after taking out that second loan for Garrett. They're moving into a small rental. I read the message 3 times, waiting for guilt to hit. It didn't come. Instead, I felt sad for them, for the choices they'd made, for the consequences they were facing, but not responsible, not guilty. They chose Garrett over financial stability. They chose enabling over tough love. Those were their choices, not mine. I texted back, "Thank you for telling me." That night, I stood on my apartment balcony watching the sunset behind the Rockies. The sky turned pink and gold, the city lights starting to twinkle below. I thought about Phoenix, the heat, the memories, the family I'd left behind. And I didn't want to go back. 6 months into my Denver life, I'd built something real. My savings had grown to $195,000, the raise in lower cost of living helping me save even more. Work was thriving. Carol had given me 2 major clients to manage independently. My apartment felt like home, decorated with thrift store finds and plants I somehow kept alive. But I wanted more than just financial security. I wanted purpose. I started volunteering at a local nonprofit called Mile High Financial Literacy. teaching personal finance classes to teenagers and young adults. Every Thursday evening, I'd stand in front of a classroom at a community center teaching budgeting basics, the dangers of debt, how to build savings. The students were hungry for information. Kids from low-income neighborhoods, first-generation college students, young people whose parents had never taught them about money. One girl, Sophie, reminded me of my younger self. Quiet, intense, taking notes on everything. After class one night, she approached me. "I want to save for college like you did," she said. "Can you help me make a plan?" We met for coffee the next week. I walked her through opening a savings account, setting monthly goals, finding part-time work that fit her school schedule. Watching her face light up as she understood compound interest felt better than any promotion. Then came news from Phoenix that forced me to confront everything I'd left behind. Brianna called, her voice heavy. "Garrett tried to kill himself last week, overdose. He's alive, but it was close." My breath caught. Whatever anger I'd felt toward Garrett evaporated instantly, replaced by something more complicated: grief, worry, old sisterly instincts. Old. "Is he okay?" I asked. "Physically, yes. Mentally, he's a mess. The gambling debts are worse. Your parents are bankrupt. He feels like he destroyed everything." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of it all. "What happens now?" "He's in a treatment program. Gambling, addiction therapy, psychiatric care. Your parents are trying to get him into long-term rehab." I thanked Brianna and hung up, sitting in silence for a long time. Dr. Reeves helped me process it in our next session. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Sad," I admitted, "but not guilty. I couldn't have fixed this. Giving him money wouldn't have fixed this." "That's growth," Dr. Reeves said gently. "You can care about someone and still maintain boundaries." I thought about reaching out to Garrett, to my parents, but I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be, and that was okay. One Saturday morning, I got an unexpected email from Mom. "Amelia, I know we haven't spoken in 8 months. I'm not asking you to forgive us or help us financially. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. We were wrong to put that pressure on you. We were wrong about a lot of things. I hope you're doing well. Love, Mom." I read it 5 times, looking for manipulation or guilt trips, but it seemed genuine, raw, and honest in a way I'd never heard from her. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I sat with it. Let it settle. A week later, I replied, "Thank you for the apology. I'm doing well. I hope you and Dad are finding your way through this. Take care." It wasn't reconciliation, but it was something. A door left slightly open, not for them to walk through, but for me to peek through if I ever chose to. Life in Denver continued. I got promoted to senior financial consultant. My savings crossed $200,000. I signed a lease on a bigger apartment with a view of the mountains. Victoria and Isaac set me up on dates with their single friends. Some went nowhere, but a few were promising. I kept teaching at Mile High Financial Literacy. Sophie got into college with a partial scholarship and a solid savings plan. She sent me a photo of herself on move-in day, beaming in front of her dorm. "Thank you for showing me this was possible," her text read. That night, standing on my new balcony, watching stars appear over the Rockies, I thought about the last year. Leaving Phoenix had felt like running away, but it wasn't. It was running towards something better. I'd learned that family isn't just blood, it's the people who support your growth. Respect your boundaries, celebrate your success. Isaac and Victoria, Natalie back in Phoenix, Dr. Reeves, the students in my classes, they were my family. Now, I'd learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. That saying no is a complete sentence. That your worth isn't measured by how much you sacrifice for others. Most importantly, I'd learned that you can love people and still choose yourself. You can wish them well and still walk away. You can carry grief and still move forward. My phone buzzed with the text from Sophie. "Just finished my first budget spreadsheet for college. Want to check it?" I smiled, typing back, "Send it over." This was my life now. built on my terms, funded by my work, surrounded by people who saw my value. The $200,000 in my account wasn't just money. It was freedom, security, proof that I could build something lasting. And nobody, not my parents, not Garrett, not guilt or obligation, could take that away. I was finally completely free. If you've ever faced family pressure to sacrifice your future for someone else's mistakes, drop your story in the comments. You're not alone. Like and subscribe to join me on this journey of choosing ourselves, setting boundaries, and building lives we're proud of. Thanks for listening.